everybody, and welcome to the first lesson in my rhythm workshop series. This is for all musicians, whether you're a drummer, a trumpet player, or a singer. We're gonna explore some polyrhythms, some polymetrics, and we're also gonna you'll get some exercises to do, and I'll try to explain how I perceive these expressions, polyrhythms, what's that, polymetrics. So here's a little crash course in polyrhythms versus polymetrics. I'll try to keep everything as clear as possible. Poly means many. Polyrhythms means many rhythms going on at the same time. Polymetrics is many meters going on at the same time. Of course, in the various meters in polymetrics, there are rhythms. So we'll probably find various polyrhythms in our polymetric sequences. Let's start by examining polyrhythms. I think it's hard to find a really good explanation anywhere, but I found this one actually in Wikipedia, and it's really good actually. Polyrhythms, two or more concurring rhythms where at least one is an irrational rhythm. Irrational rhythm divides the beat into a different number of equal subdivisions from that usually permitted by the time signature. According to this, we can draw the conclusion that every note in our bass rhythm is even spaced and every note in our top rhythm is even spaced. So let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so whatever we do, we always have a bass time signature. As you can see here, in this case 4/4, and we have the pulse beats of the bass time signature. We also need something at the top. In this case, it's a polyrhythm 5/4 with 5 even spaced beats that evens out over 4 even spaced beats in the bass. I read some explanation where they meant that clave rhythms are polyrhythms because it's two recurring rhythms going on at the same time. But as you can see, the top here is not even spaced, so this is actually something else, in my opinion, and it's not what we're gonna talk about here. So here we have the actual formula that you will be able to use on any polyrhythm that exists. We'll start by using the last digit as the bass time signature. The last digit is always the bass. Then we'll take the first digit and use it as the subdivision at the top. In this case, 5 becomes quintuplets, 16th note quintuplets. And finally, we use once again the last digit, which indicates that we should play only every 4th note in the subdivision. And now, if we play the bass time signature in one hand or one foot and play those special shaped notes, only those, we actually have the polyrhythm 5/4. And you'll have to wait for this one, it actually comes in lesson number 2. Polymetrics, on the other hand, is a sequence of something, a time signature or a grouping of notes that goes on for a little bit longer. You could think of it as polyrhythms are two rhythms with different rate going on at the same time, and polymetrics are two sequences in the same rate going on at the same time, parallel, except for triplet groupings, which we will talk more about. Some guys talk about metric modulation, meaning the same thing I mean when I talk about polymetric and polymetric sequences. But for me, metric modulation is something else. It's the actual modulation from one tempo to another. I played a lot of classical music symphony orchestra, percussion and that kind of stuff, and you always, or very often, you see stuff like this. Like what was the dotted quarter notes now becomes the new quarter notes. That's for me a metric modulation, the actual modulation. So I'd rather talk about polymetrics and metric sequences. So let's start by checking out our first polyrhythms. Enjoy. If you think this polyrhythm stuff is difficult in the beginning, remember that you do create polyrhythms every day by walk and talk at the same time. Okay, here's our first polyrhythm. I have two sounds. I have this sound, the cowbell, and I have this sound, the woodblock. And the cowbell will represent our bass time signature, which in this case is 2/4. 1 2 1 2 1 2. This is the time signature that the actual song we're playing is in. Now we're gonna play the polyrhythm 3/2. And as you know by now, it's 3 beats with equal length that lines up perfectly over 1 bar of our bass time signature, which is 2/4, 2 beats. Here it is. It sounds like this. 1 2 1 2. Okay, we have 2 here. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay, so as you also know by now, how to know exactly how this rhythm is gonna go is we have 2 and we're gonna have the polyrhythm 3/2. So the subdivision on this guy is 3. Actually 8 note triplets over the 2/4. And we have, if it's 3/2, we have the subdivision 3, but we're gonna take this number 2 and play only every second note on this one. So 1 2 1 2. Great. And here's a correct way to notate this one. It's actually quarter note triplets. Okay, what about the reversed? 2/3. Well, we could just hear the 3/2 differently. 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. And we have it actually. But let's check out exactly how we know it's 2/3. 3 is our bass time signature, the time signature the actual song we're playing is in. A waltz, perhaps. 1 2 3 and 1 2 3 1 2 3. Okay, 2/3. We have 3 here. Then we should have the subdivision 2 on this one. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Regular 8 notes. And we have this number 3. So we will play only every third 8 note. Okay? 1 2 3 1 2 3. Okay, since the result is dotted quarter notes, this is a great way to write this. Doesn't need to be more complicated. In classical music, they would probably write it something like this, a duola. You know, when they, meaning classical musicians, talk about 3/2 and maybe 2/3 as well, they talk about hemiola. But as far as I know, that's just used in classical music.
Okay, let's do one more. Actually, two more. 4/3 is a very common polyrhythm. That's used in so many songs and in waltzes, songs in 3/4. So we have our bass time signature, which is 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we have our subdivision, and you know, 4/3, the subdivision is 4. And that becomes 16th notes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? And we take the bass time signature number again, 3, and play only every third note on this one. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Great.
This is, for me and many others, the correct way to notate 4/3 as quarter notes. In music notation software, they actually doesn't let you do that. They want you to do it as 8 notes, which I think is wrong. At least we should have the option to choose.
And the reversed. Of course, as in the previous example, we could just hear it another way around, but let's check out exactly how it is. 3/4. Then we have our bass time signature is 4, 4, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And our subdivision is going to be 3 triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4. But we're going to take the bass number again, which is 4. Remember, 3/4. And play only every fourth triplet. Goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is, 3/4.
And here is how to notate 3/4 as half note triplets.
Okay, let's move on to some polymetrics. And when I talk about polymetrics, I often talk about polymetric sequences. And with this, I mean it's basically a time signature that goes along with the bass time signature. So we have 2 time signatures at the same time. And opposed to polyrhythms, these do not have to line up every bar. It can be long sequences you call it over the bar line sequences. Polymetrics is practically the same thing as groupings of notes. You can have groups of 5/8 after one another and so forth.
Okay, so here we have groupings of 5/8 notes in 4/4, which in this case is exactly the same thing as playing the time signature 5/8 in 4/4.
You can also have groups of triplets. Groups of 7 triplets. But in the case of triplets, we cannot talk about one time signature over another. Just the triplets becomes something else actually. Okay, polymetric sequences can be used to make super interesting rhythmic ideas in a solo. And we're gonna start very basically with a phrase in 3/4. But our time signature of our song is 4/4. So we're gonna play something in 3/4 to that. Okay, this is our phrase. It's in a phrase in 3/4. Okay, so now let's just listen how this phrase sounds over 4 bars of 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was 4 bars of 4/4.
I apologize in advance to all the great piano players out there. Viewer discretion is advised. And remember, this is totally free.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.